Time for the press review, and for that, Solange Mougin is here again with us on set. Solange, the French papers are, of course, focusing on today's 10th nationwide strike against Emmanuel Macron's pension reforms.
Yeah, I thought I'd begin with the local papers today. In Marseille, for example, their regional paper says that they will strike for as long as it takes. Meanwhile, the Dépêche Midi, it says it's focusing on a Tuesday, haut risque, or a Tuesday where violence could get out of hand. Meanwhile, l'Alsace in eastern France is focusing on the political, on Macron searching for a way to stamp out anger in the streets. And in the national papers, there are also divergent views as well. Let's take l'Humanité, the left-leaning paper. It says that Emmanuel Macron is le pyromane, the pyromaniac. It says that he has chosen the route of repression, which risks making things worse. Meanwhile, Libération, also left-leaning, it asks, where is the exit? It says Macron is more fragile than ever, with his popularity sinking. It wonders if his efforts to move on, to appease protesters, will work as he waits for the Constitutional Council to weigh in on his reforms. Meanwhile, going the opposite end of the political spectrum, Le Figaro, the conservative paper, says it's focusing on the over 1,000 casseurs or hooligans that are expected today at the protests. And it's also looking at what it calls an improbable solution, or the potential for the government to work with labor unions to calm people's anger. As for why this would not work, La Croix has an interesting perspective. It's saying that there is a long-term mistrust between Emmanuel Macron and also with labor unions. They feel that Macron has no interest in furthering social democracy. The unions say they feel that Macron has not given them a place at the table to try and resolve social issues.
Got a somewhat different response to mass dissatisfaction with the reform plan there, and the press is covering then Netanyahu's decision to postpone the vote on his judicial overhaul.
Yeah, for Haaretz, on its front page, we can see that the prime minister, it believes that the prime minister has lost touch with the people, and it actually argues that he has left his party bruised and battered, and that it is too late to trust, it says, Benjamin Netanyahu. For a more conservative approach, the Jerusalem Post, it says that this is Netanyahu's Nixon moment, or a turning point in his premiership, one where the public has viewed his moves as, quote, a blatant abuse of power. And in its editorial, the Jerusalem Post says that it is time to move forward, that all of this could have been avoided, and that the person to blame here is Netanyahu, that this was about his personal future and not about policy, that the nation has entered a period, it says, of reckoning.
Solange, meanwhile, is also keeping an eye on Burkina Faso and covering a shocking video of the killing of children.
Yeah, Libération tells us that for a month it reviewed and researched and verified a video that it received from Burkina Faso, and it confirmed in the 1-minute, 23-second video the killing in February of a number of children and adolescents at a military camp. Now, it's shocking and brutal, and the video shows that at least one soldier participated in these assassinations. Now, the article was promptly shot down by the Burkinabe website Le Faso. Le Faso said it is, quote, a clumsy, crude attempt to discredit the nation's soldiers and to turn people against the government. The junta said that the video is, quote, manipulations disguised as journalism. But as Courrier International, the French site, tells us, free speech and journalism are in danger in the West African nation. Not only has France 24 been suspended there, but Courrier International tells us now that local papers and media are also being threatened by the military junta.
Finally, from you then, Solange, you have found a couple of articles about Michelangelo's David and how it connects to culture wars in the United States.
Yeah, as Italian papers from a few days ago show us, the famous statue is the center of a controversy thousands of miles away in Florida. Il Giornalio explains that a school principal in Florida was forced to resign after students were given an art history lesson that showed images of the 16th century Renaissance statue. Now, as the Republica tells us, the parents complained, saying that the statue is pornographic. Well, now the mayor of Florence has said that he'd like the principal to come to the city to be honored and receive the recognition she deserves. And as The Guardian tells us, the museum that houses the statue has also invited the the school board of the Florida Christian Charter School to come and receive an art history lesson. But this is just the latest chapter of an education crisis under Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, with conservatives implementing book bans, anti-LGBTQ plus policies like Don't Say Gay, and also a push right now to keep girls from discussing their periods. Now, to bring a bit of levity to this, The Week has a very clever cartoon with an adult yelling to cover that smut, but then when the naked body of a man is covered in women's clothing, the person is even more shocked. And finally, as the New York Post tells us, they have a fun angle on this. It says that after episodes on Donald Trump, predicting Donald Trump running for president, Russia invading Ukraine, The Simpsons has yet again predicted the future. There was an episode 33 years ago in 1990 when Marge is asked to join a protest against the statue, and she replied that she loves the masterpiece and that it is, as the episode notes, definitely a work of art and not just a man with his pants down.
Definitely not the first time The Simpsons has seemingly predicted these cultural debates. Quite a visionary show. Solange Mougin, thank you very much.